The Coalition for Marriage came out with a really interestingly persuasive ad to encourage people to say no to same-sex marriage in Australia. And it gives us some hints on how we can be more persuasive ourselves, particularly when talking to people who oppose same-sex marriage. The first tip I have for you is don't breathe with your mouth. Mouth breathing is often used as a pejorative term to describe stupid people, and I don't think it comes from anywhere scientific, but it is backed up in some interesting science, and that is if you breathe mostly with your mouth, because it's a larger airway, you'll get more oxygen in your lungs, which we'd think, oh, that's a good thing, right? And more oxygen in my lungs means more gets to my brain. Well, interestingly, it starts a fight or flight response. Because of some funky stuff to do with pH balance in the blood, it can make you more fearful. I think that's relevant, not just because this lady has facial structures that are reminiscent of somebody who breathes through their mouth, but because this is a fear campaign. This is hitting on the fears that people have when they consider the possibility of same-sex marriage.
School told my son he could wear a dress next year if he felt like it.
Oh, he's allowed to wear a dress if he wants to. So start small. Say something small and innocuous that everybody's likely to agree with. We've all heard these stories about boys wearing skirts at school. It's something that people on both sides of the debate can agree with. And as such, it doesn't start off as an affront. It's just starting off at the thin end of the wedge.
When same-sex marriage passes as law overseas, this type of program becomes widespread and compulsory.
So they become widespread and compulsory. Can you see here we've jumped from he can wear a dress if he wants to an interview with somebody else that might not even be related saying this becomes widespread and compulsory. Do you have any citations for that? Do you have any examples of boys being allowed to wear dresses one year and then forced to the next? Obviously we don't. But because of this slippery slope, because we've started on that thin end of the wedge, we're more likely to get there. This is doubly interesting because this is the whole point. This is the whole fear that they're hitting at. And that is that so many people on the traditional marriage side of the debate have, and that is of a creeping liberal agenda that's coming for your most cherished beliefs. So, and a lot of people say that, don't they? They say, oh, if we let men get married, what's happening next? People are going to marry dogs. It's called a slippery slope fallacy, and it exposes a flaw in how we do our thinking. We can say no to reasonable things for fear that they're pointing in the direction of something we don't like. In countries with gay marriage, parents have lost their right to choose. So this is now ramping up the fear that people have of this slippery slope. Where are we going to end up next? We're not even going to have the choice. The line choice they're going through with this on, because part of what people are scared of with the liberal agenda is that you're not allowed to say things anymore. The PC brigade will get you. The whole ad is called You Can Say No, showing that people are fearful of doing this, and this is all part of the agenda, so you better stop them. Because you'll notice in this ad, they never actually discuss gay marriage. They're talking about transgender and children, nothing to do with whether two men and two women happen to get married to one another.
Kids in Year 7 are being asked to role play being in a same-sex relationship.
So once people have bought into this fear that you're mongering here, if you've made a bold claim like that, you need a story to back it up. Anytime you do this in a presentation, anywhere at work, while trying to convince anybody of anything, don't just give them the data, back the data up with a personal story. Now, personal anecdotes are a terrible way to do our reasoning, but they're very persuasive, which is why people use them. Her story that a boy was forced to role play a same-sex relationship. That's happened to me. If you study drama at school with a room full of boys, of course it's going to happen. The question is if there's anything wrong with that. And in and of itself, in an interview by itself, it doesn't really matter. But if you put it right next to a thing where somebody says this becomes widespread and compulsory, we're thinking, oh, hang on, this kid's been forced to do this by his drama teacher, not just that's the scenario that was picked by the rest of the class. We have a choice. These liberals don't take your choices away. What does this tell you about people who support traditional marriage? It says that they're scared of a progressive agenda and they don't like being told that they're not allowed to do or say certain things. It also shows that they are really concerned about children. How can you deal with this? Start off with things that are just about freedom and equality, and start off with statements that are innocuous that everybody wants to agree with. I just want children to grow up in stable homes. On this, both sides are likely to agree. They would just take it another way. So what you can say next is a bold claim like, actually statistically it shows that kids that grow up in same-sex relationships fare a lot better on a bunch of measures. Not necessarily because gay people seem to be better as parents, but quite often just as a result of all of the hoops they've got to jump through, that's actually a way better parent than somebody who got knocked up while they were drunk at the pub one night. And then tell them a personal story about something. Friends that you might know of that have a child and how happy that child is that he's no longer in foster care and a ward of the state. And that's why you don't start off with stuff calling people bigots, because it doesn't make people open their minds. They get fearful, they breathe through their mouth, they get scared, and then they make decisions predicated on that fear of that slippery slope. I really hope you found this useful, and if you have, please like, comment. If you disagree with it, even more so, please comment, share your thoughts, and if you think it might be useful, please share it with somebody else.